This video is going to show you how to use double pointed needles. They're double pointed because they have points on both sides. They are used mostly for making knitting projects in the round, which would be like a glove, a sock. When you get to the end of hat patterns, you need smaller needles that a cable needle cannot provide. So I will show you how to do this. So of course, you need to cast on, which I use the long tail cast on. So since I'm doing just a small project, I'm going to go, I don't know, maybe 12 inches of yarn. And I'm going to put my needle under, cross them with the shorter tail on your thumb, the one connected to the yarn ball on your finger. You pull down to make the V and you cast on. Now when you do double pointed needles, you want to make sure you have as close as even possible stitches on each needle. You can either work with 3 needles or 4. So if you work with 3 needles to knit, you're going to need 4 needles because you need your right-handed needle to knit. If you do 4 needles to knit, you're going to need 5 altogether for your right-handed needle. So you either can just cast on one entire needle and transfer them. So you could slide them to the other end, which is good while they're double pointed, and you can slide them onto your other needle. 8 stitches on here. And you just slide it in the middle so it doesn't fall off either end, and just let it hang there. Then you slide your working stitches all the way to the other end. So I have 8 here, so I'm going to slide 3 extra onto a new needle. So I'm going to put 8 on all stitches, on all needles. 8 stitches on all needles. So then you just keep that in the middle so they don't fall off, and just let it hang there. You slide the needles to this end. So then you would continue to cast on till you got your number, which mine is 8. 2, 4, 6, 8. So then when you got there, you would grab your next needle. You would hold the needle you had previously and your new one right next to each other. And instead of using your previous needle to do the cast on, you would take your new needle and you do the same motion, the thumb, finger through loop, drop off. Then you'd hold the needle as close as you could to your previous needle and tighten it so as to make no gaps. Then you would drop your previous needle, hold your new one, and continue to cast on. Of course, if you have problems, you can just cast on one entire needle and separate them evenly. It's really up to you. So once you have 8 stitches on each needle, which is what I'm doing, this is the tricky part because you have all these needles just hanging here. So since you'll be knitting in the round, you will have no back side to your knitting. You will never have to flip your knitting around because you'll just keep going in a circle. Also, when you knit in a round, whether you're doing it on cable needles or double pointed needles, you will need a stitch marker, just so you know where the beginning of your rows start, so you don't get lopsided rows. So you take your double pointed needles, and when you look at them, they'll all be laying weird. So you know this is your first needle because it has the yarn attached to it, as where your other one does not. And you look at it and you see these right slanting or left slanting lines, as opposed to the bumps on this one. So this is the back. So you know when you set them up, that you hold them in around like this. They all have to look the same. You don't want twisted, you don't want your stitches twisted, because that will cause an uneven round, obviously. So all these, you can see they're bumps. They all have bumps facing. So then you would hold it like this, and it may seem intriguing because you got more than 2 needles, but really you're only working with 2 needles at a time. So you make sure you get your yarn that is connected to the ball and put that above your needles because you don't want it to get caught in the middle. So you take your first 2 needles and then you grab your 5th needle and you hold your yarn in your hand however it's comfortable to you. You can even just let it hang off to the side. You take your new needle and you would knit into your left needle here. And you would take the yarn which is connected to this right needle here and you wrap it around your new needle which is in the middle and you pull it through just like you're knitting and off your left needle. So now you let this needle on your right go. You're not using it anymore. You're just using your brand new needle and your previous left one. So after you knit 1 stitch, just to secure it, you take your stitch marker, slide it on your needle. So now you have the circle right here, which will indicate this is the start of every row. And then you would knit like normal.